And we'd like to welcome everybody to our first of the series of information sessions that Civic are endeavouring to make sure that we share all our information about any changes that we're hearing that are happening with the NDIA and any changes to how we're introducing that or having to do that at Civic as well. So today's session is on understanding apportioned pricing and programs of support. It is an information session. We're hoping that we're only going to probably take about 25 minutes to half an hour, and it's a bit of a taster. So it's just about giving people the initial information, and then we'll walk you through the steps around what implementation may look like for Civic and what those things are. I'd like to begin by acknowledging the traditional owners and custodians of the lands in which we all live and in which we join today in this online meeting. And I pay my respects to those elders past, present and emerging that join us today. So today, for our apportioned pricing, start of the presentation, what we're going to be looking at is just the background, the summary of the changes, what is apportioned pricing, what does it look like, and a timeline of transition. So background. So as some people may be aware, the NDIA have done lots of different things around their price guides and the way that they really want the sector to deliver their services. So they have made changes to the pricing arrangements for group-based activities, including in-centre and community-based programs. The NDIA's deadline for service providers to transition to this new apportioned pricing is now the 31st of December 2023. So many organisations that people may also belong to and provide services to may have already transitioned, and Civic is looking, and we are in the process of transitioning to this as of the 1st of July 2023 to be compliant with that pricing arrangements as per the NDIA. So just a bit of a summary around these changes. The NDIA really tried to push this out to the sector probably over the last 3 years, really starting to talk about this. One of the pushbacks that really came from the sector was about how do we understand apportioned pricing? People were just getting new plans, trying to understand ratios, understanding how to get service agreements. So both clients and families and then the services in which they engaged with really were trying to navigate this, already it's quite complex system. And so the sector actually pushed back, which has been really great. And the reasons why the sector is really good is just that it gives time for organisations such as ours to work much more closely with people so that we understand what we need to do and we can make sure that our clients and our families understand that as well. So where is it done? Capacity building groups and ADEs are already using this pricing model. So if somebody is within perhaps supported employment, you'd already see this pricing model underway. The NDIA states that apportioned pricing gives more transparency and flexibility for providers and participants. And this is how we see this happening. So what it means is that you share the cost of group-based supports. A support worker's time is split between the number of participants they are supporting, and your share is now based on how many people are in your group. There's also a few different line items for those people that haven't already seen those things if you were perhaps working in industries or anywhere like that. They are non-face-to-face time, and we sort of use the the little NF2F. You see that quite a lot in a lot of documentations. Centre capital costs, and these are now billed separately from what we call the direct supports or face-to-face supports. So what are centre capital costs? So what these do is actually acknowledge that to provide a service or to choose a service that involves being in a centre, having access to different resources within the centre, that it actually does come as part of the program that somebody, one, the organisation needs to deliver, and secondly, it's what a person is choosing to go to. This has been acknowledged by the NDIA as a cost that is required. So these, what they do is it looks at such as asset maintenance, purpose-built refurbishments to centres and to workplaces. It's a capital allowance, and it would used to be within the price limit, but it will now be a separate line item that will show up on people's quotes and in their plans. Providers can claim a capital allowance for each participant where appropriate, in addition to the cost of the support worker. So in essence, it's centre capital costs are the costs a business pays for the upkeep of a centre or a workplace. The other line item is called non-face-to-face supports. So these non-face-to-face activities are billable if the activities are part of delivering a disability support item to a participant. So it covers those things such as perhaps writing a report about a client's progress, about setting up the workspaces, activity preparation time, other than the general activities such as staff and rostering, which is just the cost of doing business. So some of the different examples that the NDIA are including in the non-face-to-face would include, as we can see here, so research that's undertaken by a provider that's linked to the needs of a participant to achieve their goals, the book and scheduling of activities, some training, if there's developing a particular program or supports for an individual, conducting a risk assessment for a participant prior to attending a specific support being delivered, and setting up for particular support activities, as well as some professional consultation. And I think one of the pieces that is important to note here is many of these non-face-to-face, or pretty much all of them, already occur in the cost of doing service already. It's just splitting it out now. So for us at Civic, what we're really wanting to make sure as we work with everybody is that the new apportioned pricing structure will not disrupt the supports that you or your loved one already receives from Civic. So as we said, what does it look like? You'll notice in this presentation, we are using these terms a lot in each of the slides and in the presentation. The reason that we're doing this, because it is quite a significant change to the way that we talk about pricing and the way that services may be seen and what people will now see on things like quotes and in their plans. So we're really trying to embed the different language here as well. So as we said, it's made up of 3 main components. Direct face-to-face supports, which is apportioned, as we talked about, as per the amount of people in that group, the centre capital costs, and the non-face-to-face time. And transport may also be included if that's what's included as part of someone's activities. So these items will now start appearing as separate line items. What's important to note, though, and the NDIA have been really quite clear on this, is that they are not new charges. So they're not new things that someone said, oh, you can now charge this. They were actually just already accounted for under the existing support line item, but it was all bundled up. So this is a something straight from lots of the information that has been presented by the NDIA and many other organisations in terms of making sure people can try to start understanding what that looks like. So we can see here the transitional pricing. It was claimed as one line item and it included ratios of up to 1 to 5, and it was a flat rate for the non-face-to-face. And so it was just all bundled up. What we can now see is that the new pricing, as it starts transitioning, and as we saw the transition, people can start going in it now, but it's by December, the end of the year, is claimed as separate line items. So there's no set ratios, and the non-face-to-face component is based on actual costs. So the changes to quotes, I think this is important because this is what people will see as a front-facing document, which might come out when we get either a new service agreement or when you change services or your plan is updated as well. So apportioned pricing will change the way that Civic quotes and bills, build supports are provided. So from July 1, what people will start to see are the below charges in the quotes. So they will say, again, centre capital costs, non-face-to-face time, and transport, which may also be included. So we just want to remind people that these aren't new charges, as they were previously accounted for under your existing group line items. So the annual pricing review from the NDIA said that the benefits include an opportunity for an in-depth review of each group activity to determine the level of non-face-to-face support that is required to run the activity, and a more granular understanding of the true cost of each individual, as opposed to ratios that just make everyone the same. It's helping transition group supports to more capacity building programs. So, you know, and I hope that those people that may be joining us, and that as we share the presentation with all people that are receiving our services, will really start to see a much more engaged supports from the teams of staff to really start looking at exactly this. What's making up my supports? What does it look like? Why do I do this? Oh, I'd like to change these a little bit. So much more engagement. And what they also said as a benefit is the separations of capital and labour. And so again, it increases the transparency around the cost to maintain assets. So in terms of the timeline of transition for apportioned pricing, this is how we at Civic are navigating that. So throughout March and up until May, which we are still in, our staff behind the scenes have been preparing documentation to support participants in securing the right level of funding. And they have, where it's been appropriate, there has been consultations with clients where they may be looking, they have to have moved to get some more funding, or just some changes within their programs as well. We've been holding staff information sessions and client and family information sessions. Across June and July, during this pricing transition, what we will see is that Civic will update your existing schedule of supports within your service agreement to the new apportioned pricing arrangement. So during this time, there won't be any changes to the total amount that you're charged for group supports. What we're hoping to do with people, as we've noted, is that we have, as people's plans change, or as we move through the next 6 months, we'll work with people to really understand the supports and services that they receive. As of July as well, the NDIA always release their price guide somewhere between the day before the 1st of July, maybe a week before, sometimes a week after. And what that just means, which people would see regularly anyway as part of their service agreements and just part of doing any business with all organisations, is that where a regular NDIS price book update and indexation occurs, that will also occur to the person's plan and to the billing as well. Also from July 1, during your plan renewal, so not as of July 1, all plans will be renewed, but as it happens over the next period of time, if you look at your NDIS portal or invoices, you'll also see the inclusion of these 2 new line items. So centre capital costs and non-face-to-face in your billing. And again, you'll see some transport costs may also be included in this. So just go back one slide. So just to summarise, the apportioned pricing, the NDIA have obviously for a good 3 to 4 years definitely been pushing this this move to apportioned pricing. So not based on a flat ratio for people where you've given a ratio of your 1 to 5 and everything you receive has to be that, but what it really gives us starting to give a much more visibility of customer-led service provisions, but really understanding the visibility and transparency of services. So what Civic is endeavouring to do is to make sure that as we start getting the information through and as we understand that, we're working with people to work together to do that. We're not necessarily saying we have all the answers, because the NDIA change the rules and regulations a lot. But what we will do is, as we said, starting these ones as being as open and transparent to work with people to understand and answer those questions. Tracy will also send out the slides after this, and we've also included links to the NDIA and their information sessions. They've got lots of booklets around this. They've got lots of easy reads to really understand that as well for people. So you understand what your funding is and how it's going to be utilised. So what we'll do now is we're going to move to what's called program of supports. So another, I was going to say thing, let's call it a thing just for now. So another piece of the NDIA's, transition as we do to a much more customer-led and outcome-oriented way of delivering services. So program of supports, or POS. There is a few POSs for those that are not familiar with that terminology just yet. So what we'll look at are just what are program of supports, what program of supports are at Civic, a timeline again of the transition, and then when we get to the end, we can have a bit of a Q&A, but also if there's any other questions, people can put them in the chat as well. And what we will do is answer that with all the different information sessions that we've held for people so that everybody will get the benefit of that as well. So again, 2020 was a big year, I think, for moving through for the NDIS to really start looking at different ways of providing services. So program supports were introduced back in 2020 as part of an industry-wide change. And as we noticed, that was also the time that the apportioned pricing and a couple of other things were actually introduced with the NDIA as well. So many providers are now adopting this program of support model. So what it is, it's a series of supports that are delivered over a set period of time. So it can be up to 6 months. And it's working towards an achievement of a specified outcome. So it's not necessarily just saying, oh, I'm going to go to I might have supported employment. So that may be my thing. And what I'm going to do, I'm just going to go there and I'm going to work. The idea is that it may be much more specified to an outcome about maybe increasing skills, focusing on certain areas, and a group of people would have chosen to do that. So it may include some training, it may include different workstations, some different upskilling, and it may include lots of different ratios of support that somebody gets at that time as well. And so it can be delivered in a group setting. Well, it is delivered in a group setting, and it can be used for things such as our assistance with social, economic, and community participants, so the core activities. Capacity building supports is a really big focus area. Assistance in shared living arrangements, supported independent living under SIL, and supports in employment. So some of the detail things that are really quite, for us, really quite important, and with the NDIA in terms of what they're saying they can and they can't be, is what they can't be is longer than 6 months, but they can be any amount of time up to that. They must work towards a specified outcome. And these aren't the goals or something that a person might individually want to be working on in terms of capacity building or work, as we said. But what it is, it's a bigger outcome, and all of those goals should be done within the program of support. Each program of support requires a program of support agreement. This is not a service agreement. So a service agreement where with an organisation which is already saying, yep, I agree to engage in your terms and conditions. This is what I'll expect from you. This is what you should expect from me. That still stands. This is a separate agreement that can be signed once and rolled over as well. One of the things about program of supports is that participants can exit without a cost. But the one condition that we've really seen come through with the NDIA is, though, that it's subject to a notice period. And this notice period needs to be outlined in the program of support agreement. So it's essentially a little bit like going to it's a 12-week program and I'm going to attend the 12 weeks and I'm securing my spot there. Is a little bit about the way the NDIA has been showing that, so that you can go, that's what I want to do, that's where I want to go, and that's what I want to do for this amount of time. And you can bill participant whether participant attends or not. So for Civic, we are in the process of developing these programs, and we're doing it across our community hubs and social activities, Civic Industries, and Civic Kitchen and Catering. And the reason that we look really excited, I think, about being able to deliver it this way is that we see this as an opportunity to really stop and pause and acknowledge the fact that this is an opportunity to do some much more co-design work with people. So to really stop and listen. You know, there's been some great activities that have been provided and great ways of great training supports and all of those things. However, we want to take this opportunity over the next 6 months to work with people to look at what what people are currently doing, what groups and outcomes people, are in, and what they really want to achieve, so that people are much more in control of the programs that they're receiving and the supports, and that we're much more transparent and visible in the way that we record what's going on and that we report back to those program and supports, so the people in the group and the people that sit around those people in terms of the outcomes and what people are achieving. So as we said, so as of 1 July, we are starting the concept of program of supports. We're going to schedule them. We are hoping for a schedule of a 12-week period of time. And what we're hoping with this 12-week period of time is that that'll give us a great amount of time to work with people to understand perhaps the goals and the outcomes that want to be achieved, the types of activities that people are already engaged in and perhaps want to do more of. Some of those pieces about what type of things are within that activity, how much time does it take to really research and find out what are some of the new activities that need to be done to meet either the client's needs and goals. We really want to develop making these person-centered programs, and they need to be tailored to the support needs of each individual interests, and they need to be aligned to people's current skills and focus on that building of capacity as well. One of the other things is that we will then, which is what we're hoping for a lot of people, it may not, it doesn't necessarily affect everybody, but there is then an assured billing amount for participants, which is, we're hoping, a real benefit, but also for providers as well. So we are trying to make this as smooth as possible while navigating the ever-changing NDIS landscape and the rules and the now you can do this and now we can't do this. And over the next 6 months, we say, we'll listen to your feedback. What we want to do is do it with people. We want to make sure that, we've got some 12-week templates around outcomes that will come out so people get reports, and we want to really hear about people saying, oh, this bit was good, this bit was no good. I needed more of this. I think we needed more information here, and or we could do these different activities, or if we thought of these outcomes. I know within our kitchen and catering, it's really going to be focused on what are some of these different capacity building pieces around from kitchen hand to front of house to learning and training and to working in a group to do those things as well. So we see this as a really exciting opportunity to be much more explicit in the work that we do behind the scenes, but much more transparent to people as well. So the program of supports agreement is a condition from the NDIA in terms of we must have one of these for people to engage in. And that's so that everything, again, it's for transparency, so people understand what people, should expect, and what everyone can hold everybody accountable for as well. So what it will occur is the name of the program of supports. So as mentioned, for some of our food services, it may be very much around a transition to front of house services. And so for 12 weeks, that's a big process that may occur in that one. Maybe for open employment, to be part of a crew, to engage in more social and recreational activities, to have more of a presence, to build some more core, some of those real capacity building activities as well. The length of the program is 12 weeks. What we're hoping to do over that period of time for the first 12 weeks is work with people, giving it a go and getting some really good feedback as well. We're hoping that will really keep improving the next 3-month period as well. There will be terms and conditions, and they'll include things like a notice period to exit the program of support. It'll definitely have the intended outcomes, and this is the part that we as an organisation will be able to, as we start working with those people that are engaged in the program of support. So, you know, what do people want to achieve? What am I going to get out of this? And making sure that intended outcome is really explicit, not just I'm turning up, I've got some funding, and this is where this is what I'm doing. And it will also include, for different people that may want to go to different activities or social activities, it will also include the additional activity and transport costs that are associated with those programs again. And again, for the reason that it's not a charge that happens behind the scenes, it should be something that's upfront and really explicit about the services that people are engaging with and how much they cost. So you will have a separate program of supports if people attend more than one service or more than one organisation as well. The same as you'd have different service agreements. So if you were with one of our industries in a Civic crew model, you would have a program of supports perhaps for that. And then if someone also was doing some capacity building or social programs within the hubs as well, they may have a program of supports of that one as well. And they will be two separate ones because they'll have two separate types of outcomes. So similar to the layout that we saw before, the timeline of the transition throughout March and May, what our staff have been doing is preparing for these programs of support and the documentation and the schedules of activities. So we've been looking at all the programs that have been currently provided, things that people have already asked for, listening to ways that we could do things a little bit differently, different ways of staffing our cafes and our workplaces. And have really started to understand a lot about this program of support. So gone to lots of information and learning sessions as well to really get our heads around what that means. And we've also been holding staff information sessions. And as we've had this week, starting the first bit to start talking to people about what program of supports means for both clients and families as well. Across June, your Civic leader from the various programs in which you may receive will start to make time with you and your family to start developing what this means and to doing a program support agreement schedule. So this is the first time that they're going to be doing that as well. So as I said before, I think that's the one piece that we're really quite excited about is to start asking questions. We may not have the answers, and I think the questions we may ask may not have the answers for either, but together what we're really keen to do is get those program of support schedules really going and really robust in a really learning way as well. So this will include discussing, as I said, the workplace, the in-centre activities that might already be happening, and some community-based activities. And we're going to look at it over a 12-week period. So June's going to be a pretty busy month, but our leaders will all be out there supporting people to do that. And then as of July 1, we're going to give it a go and commence our program of supports. And as I said, I think the main thing that we are really hoping for this is not to rush it and say this is just everything's happened and that's what it is. It's a phased approach. So the phasing is about learning and developing together the services, and that's what will happen over the next 6 months. So enough from Kate. If there's any questions, we're more than happy to take them. I will not pretend that I have all the answers, but what we will do is make sure that we can take things on note. We're going to share, as we said, as much information as we can that's coming from the NDIA, so straight from where the information is coming from in terms of these changes to everybody as well. So I will pause, and if there are none, then I will say goodbye in about a couple of 30 seconds or so.
I did put a question in the chat.
Lovely. Tracy, could you pull that up for me?
Celeste's question was, who should I be asking if I have any questions? And I had replied out there that, you can reach out to the Civic Customer Experience team or inquiries email, or you can reach out directly to your leader at work or at the Civic Hub.
Beautiful. And I think that is absolutely correct. Our customer experience team will, will answer as to what they can do. I think one of the best things is at the moment, it is about going to your leader of those programs to really start asking some of the questions, because if one person asks it, I think what we're hoping is that may be representation that other people need to have that answered as well, and that we can then make sure that people are getting the right information. So out to, as I said, back to CT, you can ask anybody, you can ask me, it doesn't matter, and we'll all make sure that we get that information back. Yes, thank you. Okay, so what we might do is I will close our session for this afternoon. We are committed to making sure that our sessions are both online, we'll send them to people, and done face-to-face, but we will be having a series of sessions probably every few months, if not more, I would suggest. And Tracy, you'll get those information out, and they may be about a range of different things that may be of interest. They'll all be made available through the website and as well. So if there's any interest in anything in particular that people might like to learn about, then please drop us a line and we can see how we can support all of those things. Thank you. Have a lovely evening. And no doubt your leader will be in contact very soon to make sure that we get this amazing new part over the next 6 months underway. Thank you very much.